Hi, welcome back. In this video, we are going to talk about managed bean. So what is a managed bean? A managed bean is a Java bean class managed by the JSF framework. It is created with a constructor without any argument. It can have a set of properties. It can have a set of methods. A managed bean's property can be bound to a component value, a component instance, a converter instance, a listener instance, a validator instance. A managed beans function is to validate components data, handle events fired by component, to help navigate to a different page. To put it simply, a managed bean, besides doing other things, is used to set and get values from an xhtml page, validate and process these values, and listen to the events that occur on any component in an xhtml page. How to create a managed bean? To create a managed bean, create a Java class with the properties that you would like to have. These properties should correspond to the various input fields that you have in your xhtml. Create getter and setter methods for these properties. Create listener methods for components. For example, create action listener for the command button. Register the class as a managed bean by providing managed bean annotation. Now let's create a managed bean for our example xhtml. In this case, it is index.xhtml. If you notice, there are two fields for which the values may be required. One is input text field for user ID, and the other one is input secret field for the password. Let's create a managed bean. But before creating managed bean, let's create a package. Call it as com.myfirstjsfproject.login. So inside this, we are going to create a Java class and call it as login managed bean. I'm adding this managed bean at the end of login only to identify that it is a managed bean. You can have your own conventions. Say finish. Now you have a class called login managed bean. We need two fields. Both are strings, which is private string user ID. So this corresponds to the user ID in the xhtml. String password, and this corresponds to the password in our HTML. You notice that both have private access modifiers. Now let's generate getter and setter methods for this. You go to refactor, encapsulate fields, choose the fields for which you want getter and setter methods. Notice that the accessors visibility is public for these getter and setter methods, and fields visibility is private. If you look at this, it is private, right? So now I would say refactor. So it has generated the getter and setter methods with public access modifiers. So how do you tell the system that it is a managed bean? JSF should know that it is a managed bean. Way you are going to do that is by giving an annotation managed bean. So it is asking for import. You have to choose javax.faces.bean.managed bean, not javax.annotation.managed bean. It is javax.faces.bean.managed bean. We have generated the managed bean. Now we will see as to how to link this managed bean with this index xhtml. Before linking our index.xhtml with login managed bean, we have to know something about expression language. Expression language allows an XHTML to dynamically access data from Java Bean components. Expression language is used to get or set data using the setter and getter methods in the Java Bean, to invoke methods that are there in the Java Bean, dynamically perform arithmetic operations. Expression language has the following syntax. Hash, open the braces, give the expression and close the braces, is used for deferred evaluation expressions. Dollar, open the braces, expression, close the braces, for immediate evaluation expression. At this point of time, we will look at deferred evaluation expressions. We will look at immediate evaluation expressions at a later stage. Before linking the fields of the index.xhtml with login managed beans properties, let's see as to how to show the values of an input text field. So you have to use the attribute value, and I will key in the user ID as A, B, C, D, E, F. Now let's try running this and see how it works. It's building. It's taking its own time. It should come up anytime. Okay, here it is. So whatever I provided as the value for this input text field is being shown over there. So value is the attribute to use, right? Now let's try linking input text field's value with the login managed bean user ID, right? Now what I'm telling the system is that the value that you key in this input text field, that is the user ID input text field, is going to be set to the user ID property of the login managed bean. And at the same time, whatever is there in the property of the login managed bean, user ID property of the login managed bean, is going to be shown in the input text field. So we'll do the same thing over here for the input secret. Let's say again value is login password. Again, what I'm telling the system is that the value that you key in the password field of the xhtml is going to be set to the password property of the login managed bean, and at the same time whatever is the value in the login managed beans password property is going to be shown in index.xhtml's password field, right? You would have noticed that we are using login managed bean. The name login managed bean is similar to the class name that we have given, but starting with the lowercase. But how did the system know that we are using a login managed bean with a lowercase as the instance? By default, the system would assume that the instance of a particular managed bean is the name of the Java bean starting with a lowercase, right? So if you look at our Java bean class, it is login managed bean. But if you look at this instance, it is login managed bean with L being in lowercase. You can give your own name. So how do you do that? See, name is equal to login, right? By doing this, you are telling the system that it would be known, this class instance would be known by login. Let's go back to this one. Try compiling this. Compile and run. Do that. Okay. Now, can you see that there is an error? It says target unreachable. Identifier login managed bean resolved to null. So it is not able to recognize login managed bean because we have changed the name over here to login. Okay. So what should we do? Should go back to index.xhtml and instead of login managed bean, we will give it as login. Let's compile and run. There it is. Now it's not giving the error that it gave earlier, which was target unreachable. So that means to say it has recognized that login is the managed beans name, right? So you can change the managed beans instance name by giving the name for it. And also you have to see that we are using deferred evaluation expression. You can see this here because we are using hash. We will use immediate evaluation expression at a later stage. This diagram shows as to how the fields of the xhtml are linked to the managed beans properties. You can see that the value of the field user ID in the xhtml is got from the property user ID of the managed bean using the method getUserID. You can see that the value of the user ID field in index.xhtml is passed to the property user ID in the login managed bean using the method setUserID. You can see that the value of the password field in the xhtml is got from the property password of the managed bean using getPassword method. You can see that the value of the password field in index.xhtml is passed to the property password on the login managed bean using the method setPassword. And finally, how do we handle events fired by a component? There are two methods. The first one is by method binding. In this case, you use an appropriate attribute to bind the event to a method in the bean. The second one is by using the appropriate listener tag and specifying an implementation class for the interface by overriding the method relevant to that interface. We will be using the first method. We will use the second method as we go along. How do you handle the event that is fired on clicking on the command button? First of all, we should know what is the event that is fired. It is the action event. Use the action listener attribute to bind a method in the bean for this event. How to do this? Step 1. Create and implement a method in the bean that takes action as argument. Step 2. Provide the name of the method in the action listener attribute using the expression language. So let's try to see as to what we can do on clicking the command button. Let's go to index.xhtml. So on a click on this command button, we have to call a method in the login managed bean. So I'll go back to login managed bean, and here I'm going to put public void login button clicked. So action event should be one of the arguments, and that would be the only argument in this case. So I'll say action event E. It's asking for an import. So you have to choose javax.faces.event.action event, not java.awt. It should be javax.faces.event.action event. Okay. So on clicking this, we'll just display as to what is there in user ID and password. Is user ID password is password. We will not do anything more than this at this point of time. Now that we have coded this portion, let's go back to index.xhtml. Here you're saying action listener. Okay. This is what is going to trap the click event. So EL expression, this is the EL. So I'll say login dot login button clicked. Okay. Now, let's build this. It's building. Let's see what's building. Yes. Yes, here it is. Say user ID is ABCDEF. Password is my password. Okay. If I say sign in, let me go to the console and you can see that this is the Tomcat console. Here you can see user ID is ABCDEF, password is my password. So the event that is fired is being trapped in the bean, and you can do further processing based on what you get. Let's summarize as to what we did in this video. We came to know as to what a managed bean is. We came to know as to how to link the xhtml fields with the managed bean properties. We came to know as to how to call a method in managed bean using the action listener attribute of the command button. We came to know as to how to provide a name to managed bean instance. Bye for now.